Virtual Issues and Answers Forum. I'm Bryce Jacobson. I'm the publisher of your Post-Independent and Citizen Telegram, and I'll be moderating tonight's discussion. This event is brought to you courtesy of tonight's sponsors at the Glenwood Springs Chamber Resort Association, the Glenwood Springs Post-Independent, and of course, KMTS. Questions have been collected in advance and sorted to avoid duplication and to ensure that a wide variety of topics are addressed tonight. We will not be taking questions from the audience this evening. The forum is being simultaneously interpreted in Spanish tonight. The event is also being recorded, and the links will be posted to postindependent.com, kmts.com, and glenwoodchamber.com. We will begin tonight with the uncontested candidates. Jonathan Godis and Ingrid Wusow will each give a 4-minute prepared statement. Then they will bring in candidates for the contested at-large seat, incumbent Shelley Kopp and Ricky Rodriguez. As the moderator, I will ask the questions of the candidates. Each candidate will give a 2-minute opening statement. Questions will be asked alternating order by last name. We ask that candidates maintain respect and decorum towards one another. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute closing statement. Our timer tonight is Angie Anderson. She will hold up a card reminding tonight's speakers that they have 30 seconds left, and she will also let them know when their time is up. So the order tonight will be Jonathan, Ingrid will give their 4-minute speeches, and then we'll start with Shelley and Ricky in that order. Okay, so we are not following the national trend of not being able to have civil discourse. We're going to do something cool locally and just have some conversations. We're going to start though with no conversation, just speeches. So we'll go to you first, Jonathan. You've got 4 minutes.
All right, I'm pushing my timer so I can keep on track. Thank you very much, Post Independent, KTMS, Glenwood Springs Chamber for sponsoring this. It's a great venue, I think, to get to know the candidates. My name is Jonathan Godis. I've lived in Glenwood Springs for 14 years. I have a wife who works in public health and 2 daughters who go to Sobers Elementary and Glenwood Springs Middle School, respectively. I've served as a council liaison for boards and commissions, including Transportation, Historical Preservation, Rural Fire District, Firefighters Pension Fund, RAFTA, Financial Advisory Board, and the Airport Board. I've been honored and humbled to have served the Glenwood Springs citizens for the last 4 years and the last 2 years as your mayor. The economic infrastructure and public health of our community needs to be the focus for the next 4 years. As the COVID crisis winds down, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, as we're getting more shots in our arms and as the majority of our friends and family are starting to become immunized, Glenwood Springs is really poised to come back in a big way. I'm proud that this council took affirmative and proactive measures to both protect the health and lives of our citizens and support the business economy. The Grizzly Creek fire, of course, was that gut punch in the middle of a pandemic that we just did not need. We didn't see it coming. There was nothing we could do to avoid it. It was devastating for our citizens and our community, but there's critical work that we must do to continue to recover. Our watershed was decimated, and this has really highlighted the need we have to have as a community to always think about both redundancy and resiliency in every project that we do and every project that we consider. We're not Vail. We are a historic city that has dangerously antiquated infrastructure. Addressing these issues is going to take significant resources, sacrifices, and dedication. But not everything is about COVID and Grizzly Creek fire. We've done some other cool stuff and continue to do that. We've secured over $10 million in federal grants and state grants to replace our 27th Street Bridge a couple of years ago. And we're right in the middle of our South Midland reconstruction and rebuild, to the chagrin of a lot of my neighbors. We've worked with RAFTA and CDOT to reduce the cost of a South Bridge project, which after 20 years in the making, in the next several months should be fully designed and shovel ready. We really need to continue to work with our partners, including and especially the county, to reduce that funding gap. We have $24 million set aside right now and secured on a $56 million project, and it's going to take all that we can muster in order to complete this project, but I'm very hopeful that we're going to be able to do that in the next couple of years. And I really appreciate the support of the community and my fellow councilors for moving that project forward. These projects are what motivated me to run for city council 4 years ago, and their completion will be my priority. Other stuff. We have $9 million community-wide fiber internet build-out that we're really excited about. We have rebuilt our shorelines of Beltis and Two River Parks. We've completed massive reconstructions of the Cedar Crest neighborhood, and we will start the Red Mountain neighborhood, portions of it, this summer as well. We've achieved our goal of sourcing 100% of our electricity from renewable resources. I take a lot of pride personally in the fight against RMI and the strip mine, and I will continue to do this fight and do everything in my power to make sure that we win this fight. We have very little control over natural disasters, but RMI is a threat that we actually can influence. It's what motivated me to seek appointment to the office of mayor 2 years ago, and I will continue in whatever role to use my relationships that I've developed with our local, state, and federal officials and their staffs to kill this threat to our community forever. The next several years holds exciting opportunities and a need for further community conversations around the following questions. How do we diversify and grow our economy to better survive the impacts of future fires and pandemics? How do we pay for vital community needs while still investing in the projects that advance a sense of community? How do we revitalize the West Glenwood Mall and the whole of West Glenwood Springs? How do we maintain our working class roots and stay a real town as housing becomes unaffordable for most? Lastly, these are the questions I have spent 4 years working on with amazing city staff, my fellow councilors, and community members. I'm very hopeful the citizens of Glenwood Springs have recognized that I've tried to serve them as well as I can, and I'm looking forward to serving the city for another 4 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate that. Looks like you stayed on time, so thank you for that. Ingrid, are you ready?
Yeah, totally. I just updated my whole thing based on the things Jonathan said that I was like, oh, darn it, I didn't have that in there. I too am going to set a timer so I don't go over.
I told you should have gone first, Ingrid.
Yeah, totally. So for those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Ingrid Wusso. I'm a 5th generation Valley resident and a graduate of GSHS class of 95.
Ingrid, can I stop just a second?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
What's that?
Our interpreter had to stop just for a second, and then. Okay. Just 1 second here. Sorry for the technical challenges again. Ingrid, whatever you can start over. We won't take this time away from you.
Okay. I'm still Ingrid Wusso.
Just 1 second.
Okay.
She's still having us pause. Okay.
Catalina, I can hear you. Ingrid, Bryce, can you hear Catalina?
We can, no.
Okay, I can hear for some reason, so I'll relay what she said. She said, essentially, Jonathan, you went much too fast, and if future candidates can slow down a little bit in their speech, that would be very helpful.
And that's why you went first.
That's why the coaching has occurred. Okay.
Totally.
Ingrid, 4 slower minutes.
Okay,
please.
Great. Awesome. And I'm going to read mine, so that should be easy. So are we ready, Catalina? Yeah? Okay, great. So I am Ingrid Wusso. I'm a 5th generation Valley resident, and I did graduate from the high school, GSHS, right across the way from me in 1995. I've left a couple times over the years. I went to CSU for a bachelor's degree. I went to a baking and pastry program on the East Coast. And then for 5 years, my husband and I, we moved to Montana with our boys, and we went and did graduate school during the recession. We returned in 2013. And we actually moved into West Glenwood, a West Glenwood home that my grandparents had built in 1959. Bill and Dolores Rippey, they raised my mom and my aunts and uncle there. So now my husband and I live in West Glenwood, just below the golf course, with our boys, Aiden, who is 16, also going to that same high school I went to, and West, who goes to the middle school. Since returning to the Valley, I've really embraced opportunities to volunteer. I was a court-appointed mediator for the Ninth Judicial District there. I also volunteered at Youth Zone as well as a planning and zoning commissioner for the city of Glenwood. So I did that for 4.5 years. until October of 2020, when I was appointed to fill the remainder of Councillor Voorhees' term on City Council. During that 4.5 years, I learned so much about the nuances of city and how applications in land use go through a process, and it has served me well for the last 5 months. In January, I decided that I actually did like being on City Council and decided to run. And shortly after that, found out that I was running unopposed. So since my appointment, I've now served on RUDI, Water and Power, Garfield County Clean Energy, and the City of Glenwood tourism industry, all of which has helped me grow my understanding of how fortunate we are to live here and what a great community it is. During my term, my primary focus will be on prioritizing quality of life for residents of Glenwood, meaning the maintenance of streets, the infrastructure of our utilities, and supporting them and their families. So that's my top priority. While I will always recognize the importance of the tourism industry, I believe that if we start with making Glenwood residents happy, they will continue to build and support the tourism industry as well, since we have since 1880s. As we recover from the COVID pandemic, my goal will be to make fiscally responsible decisions that help us maintain our status as a desirable community-oriented destination in the mountains. After this devastating summer with fires, a big focus of mine will be on wildfire preparedness, always asking, what are other communities doing? What are they doing well, and how can we do it better? Southbridge will always remain a focus until it's built, which hopefully is soon. This auxiliary road as an emergency resource may very well be one of the most important life-saving routes and moving our people into safety and away from the fires. I too will continue to fight the development of RMI mine and plan to join this amazingly strong group of well-organized people that I'm in awe of their knowledge and organization in fighting this entity. And then I'll say it's not all just hard work. I look forward to the completion of the updated comp plan, which is a governing document that helps us better understand what people in our community want. I look forward to a renewed energy on 6th Street. 6th Street was mildly developed, and I would love to see more connectivity and with the downtown core. I'm looking forward to more social engagements and activity. I'm ready to put COVID behind us. I'm ready for Strawberry Days again. I'm ready to see us grow in our social activities and just have fun together as a community again. Let's see how I'm doing on time. My perspective, I've lived here long enough that going to City Market is a form of a social outing. I remember when there were 2 Pizza Huts in town. And as a kid, I worked at Blockbuster Video on the south end of town, and the Daily Bread right downtown, and the Vapor Caves right when you come into Glenwood. I know this community. This is my hometown. Many people know me from these different walks of life. Maybe you know me from when I owned a bakery, or from when I am in the real estate industry, or from being Aiden and West Mom, Jeremy's wife, their neighbor. Ultimately, I feel fortunate now to work for all of my friends, neighbors, and community members as a city council member, and I hope I will always be approachable and listen to you, my community members. So thank you. Thank you all so much for this opportunity tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for your service. We appreciate it, even though sometimes community members probably don't tell you that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, awesome. So we're going to move now on to the at-large candidates. And Shelley, you get to go first with a 2-minute opening statement.
Okay, thank you, Bryce. Hi, and thank you for being here this evening. Thank you to KMTS and the Post Independent and the Chamber for having us all here. My name is Shelley Kaup, and I'm running for re-election as your City Council at-large representative. My love of the city gives me the passion to pursue 4 more years as your council representative. My husband and I moved to Glenwood Springs in 1988, and we were seeking a small city where we could enjoy the outdoors that we love and also be part of a small and close-knit community. We are both avid hikers and telemark skiers, and we raised 3 sons here, Jake, Sam, and Nate. I truly believe this is a special city with an authenticity and vitality all of its own that's rooted in the people who live here. and in the incredible natural surroundings. I have served the city on councils and boards and commissions for over 20 years. My leadership on council as mayor pro tem has helped the city move forward on important issues, such as supporting residents and local businesses through the pandemic, responding to the Grizzly Creek fire and its impacts, more dollars for road maintenance and projects such as South Midland and the 27th Street Bridge replacement. And I've also worked for improving city parks, bringing the new recycle center back to town, and 100% renewable electricity for our city. My priority is to improve the quality of life for all of our residents. I work hard on issues that matter to our residents and businesses, such as workforce housing, emergency preparedness, supporting the health of our youth, and solutions for homelessness. I have 2 degrees in engineering, 30-year background in small business, planning, and engineering, and my experience and willingness to listen and work through tough issues helps me to get the job done. I would appreciate your vote, and I look forward to serving the community for 4 more years.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And Ingrid and Shelley, sorry, I murdered your last names. That's why I'm a newspaper. They are spelled correctly, but I cannot obviously pronounce them correctly. So I apologize for that.
No
Okay.
worries.
Ricky, 2 minutes.
All right. Am I on?
You are. Yep.
All right. I am not as polished as Shelly is. So give me 1 second. Okay. So my name is Ricky Rodriguez. I've owned a business here in town for 13 years. I was born here in 1980. I went to school here part-time. So this is my statement. Life is about timing. And after this past year, with all the challenges we have gone through, I found myself as a voice, not only a voice for small business, but a voice for the community. The decisions being made by elected officials were having a great impact on many local businesses. They did their best, but they were missing a key element in the council. I am a business owner and I am deeply rooted in our community. I love this town and more importantly, I love our community. I may be new to the politics, but I have always stepped up to the plate when something is important to me. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it my all. It would be an honor to serve for the town I was born in. I'm quick.
Okay, there was no warnings given, so okay, that sounds good. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the question and answer part. And as I mentioned earlier, if we could just make sure that we just have professional decorum and give each other the opportunity to answer the questions. We will alternate back and forth between whoever answers the question first. And so we'll start with you, Ricky. The first question is, what metric will you use when deciding to support the removal of Glenwood Springs mask ordinances?
Well, I've been pretty involved in it since the beginning, and just because of the business I own a restaurant. I do believe in safety. I think the most important thing that we need to do is, at first I was in a hurry to get it over with, but now with everything starting to open up and see what's going on, my biggest thing is to do it safety, but we also have to have like more of a forward, not progressive. I'm sorry, I'm just not used to talking like this on this. It's difficult for me, but I want a proactive approach to it. I want to have a proactive approach. I wanted a new message for the beginning of the year. Not only should we have 6 feet and wear a mask, but I wanted to put a different message out there, a message that talked more about health, a message for individuals to start taking taking into account that they have a lot to do with what's going on, because it is a health crisis. I want people to be healthier. I wanted a message to, to feed your body better. I wanted people to feed your body, move your body more, and just be healthier in general. So that was kind of like what I wanted to see a little bit more of with the new year coming around. And that's what I will continue to do.
Okay, thank you. So Shelley, just to restate the question, what metric will you use when deciding to support the removal of Glenwood Springs mask ordinances?
Thank you, Bryce. I think that's a very good question, and that's something that we haven't considered yet on council. But I believe as more and more people get vaccinated in the community, and we have a certain percentages of people in the community in the county that have already experienced the disease. So I believe if we reach a metric where we are close to that herd immunity number, and I don't know exactly what that number is, but we could follow the guidance of our health officials, the county public health officials, the state public health officials. When we reach that point, I think that's something that we can certainly consider. As a tourist community, we have a lot of visitors coming to town from all over the nation and potentially, wider parts of the world as things open up globally. So I think we have to be considerate and careful of that to keep our residents safe and our businesses safe. So we'll be weighing all those things, I think, as things start to open up, more people are vaccinated.
Very good. Okay, question number 2, Shelley, we'll go to you first. What do you want to see change in Glenwood Springs, and how long would that change take? So how long would it take to see that change, whatever it is you choose?
Thank you. That's a very general question. Nothing specific on that?
No, on purpose. We just really want to know, if there's something in particular that you see that you want to have change. And then the second part of that, of course, is, from your opening statement, you mentioned several different things that you wanted to progress on and see change. So hopefully that helps.
Right. Okay. There are a few things that I see that impact the community the most, and especially having raised 3 sons here that are interested in, some of them are interested anyway in making their lives here and staying here. I think the cost of housing is off the charts, and especially right now, even, somewhat unexpectedly during the pandemic this last year, prices and the market has even tightened up more and prices have gotten higher. So I think the cost of housing and the availability of housing to our workforce and our teachers, our restaurant workers, our engineers, our everyone who works in the community and really makes our city vibrant. It's I know that everybody can't live here, but it's nice if we can have as many people live here as possible and keep that commute short, and it really helps with quality of life. So I would love to see that change, and if there are things that we can do about that, I'd like to see that improve. The other thing is traffic. The impacts of growth and the traffic on our community are very difficult for people to handle. And I struggle with that and work with neighborhoods continually to we want to limit and reduce the impact, kind of protect our neighborhoods from those traffic impacts, particularly of commuters coming through town, and that causes a lot of impacts to our community. So those are 2 of the things I'd like to see us change.
Great. Ricky, same question to you. What do you want to see change in Glenwood Springs, and how long would it take to see that change?
I think I would like to see more for the community, more events for the community. I want to do more things for the community so that people in the community get out there a little bit more. We do music at the park, and it's huge. That's one of the main events that we do strictly for the community, and that's the only time we see the whole community come out together. I would like to do more of that. I would like to utilize our mountain bike trails, our mountains, utilize the airport a little bit more to doing more, because I want to see this community more of an active community, more of an adventure community. So people, when they think of Glenwood Springs, they don't just think of the hot springs, you know, and you base it off the community, you know, to bring an event to Two Rivers, to utilize it, and not just that, to move forward away from COVID as soon as we're able to have herd immunity and the vaccine, to do events, to bring people together. One of the best ways of bringing somebody together is an event, inspire people afterwards, bring more businesses together where we could sell their food, vendors, we could, bring music, and just do an event for the community. And that also brings tourists. So that's going to bring more money to the town.
Okay, great. Thank you both. All right, question number 3, we'll go to you, Ricky, first. What is a higher priority for you? Preserving the airport as is or building a South Bridge Connect?
I think the South Bridge is more important. I think both of them are important together, though. So kind of with the last question is utilizing the airport and also getting the South Canyon or the South Bridge built. So I think they go hand in hand now, you know, to give the airport a facelift and try to get more businesses where it's not just utilized by certain people, where it's utilized by the whole community, whether that's getting businesses where they could take people skydiving, helicopter rides to see the mountains, anything that bring more business and more revenue to the city.
Okay, very good. Shelley, same question to you. What is a higher priority for you? Preserving the airport as is or building a South Bridge Connect?
I have to agree with Ricky on this. I think that certainly Southbridge is a top priority for the city, for the whole transportation system. It's been a top priority for a long time, and particularly as our wildfires have increased in intensity and veracity. And so I think evacuation from that south area of Glenwood Springs is really important. Right now, it's somewhat of a dead end, and there are not a lot of ways out of there. So that's a very important priority. At the same time, as I've been talking to people, and when we talked about Southbridge and the airport a couple of meetings ago, I heard from a lot of the community that, you know, our city, Glenwood Springs, people like the airport. We like it. I don't know that I completely understand it, but I'm not an airport user. And I think you have to listen to the voters and the community. And I do get it on the stand that it's always been a symbol of kind of our small city in Glenwood Springs, and it puts us on the map, and people like it, and it does have opportunities for young people to learn how to fly, and other, you know, the services that are provided there during the wildfire, during the Grizzly Creek fire. We had a lot of helicopters operating out of there. So really important services for the city. And I was involved in the NEPA process when it started. I was on my first term in council around 2007, 2008. So it's been almost a 14-year process. And I feel like we have to keep that moving forward. As the mayor said, we need to get that project shovel ready, honor the preferred alternative that came out of the NEPA process, which was to build Southbridge, but also keep the airport open.
Okay, very good. Thank you both. So Shelley, we're going to go back to you straight away here. The site of the Glenwood Springs Mall is an opportunity zone, yet continues to see little interest or progress in development. What do you think the city could do to help boost development opportunities at that site?
Okay, and this is one that we've actually worked fairly hard on. So, and I feel passionate about this. I would love to see that mall be a thriving mall where people could go and gather and have retail activity and hopefully other activities such as restaurants. And it would be interesting to see that redevelop someday, even into something similar to a Willits or something like that, where you even have housing incorporated on it. But right now, the mall is owned under a particular ownership. And actually, the city created an urban renewal authority for the mall. We worked with the owner of the mall and went through the process to have it, to create that urban renewal authority. We had a study done on the mall that showed that it was a blighted area and that it needed that economic boost. And just about the time when the mall was going to be sold and change hands, the pandemic hit and the deal fell through. So it was very extremely disappointed because I think the new owner had ideas and plans to revive that mall, and I would like to see that happen. And we've actually already had some conversations on council on getting that process moving again.
Thank you. Ricky, same question to you. The site of the Glenwood Springs Mall is an opportunity zone, yet continues to see little interest or progress in development. What do you think the city could do to help boost development opportunities at that site?
I wasn't aware that the mall was sold to somebody new. I knew it was owned by, I knew who the owners were, but I wasn't aware that it was sold by somebody else owns it now. So I think that has a lot to, we would have to listen to the stakeholders on this. And because I can't really give an answer on it at this time.
Okay, very good. So question number 5, Ricky, will go right back to you. What would you do to work more constructively with our Garfield County commissioners?
Well, you got to create a relationship with them. And I actually have a good relationship with all of them. I spoke with all of them during this time, and we need to unite. We're Garfield County. Every city in Garfield County needs to have a good relationship with them. It's going to make life easier for all of us, and so we can move forward as a team.
Okay, very good. Shelley, same question. What would you do to work more constructively with our Garfield County commissioners?
I think I would continue to work constructively with Garfield County commissioners. We have a few projects right now that we certainly have common goals on. One of them is to get a new detox center back in Glenwood Springs and Garfield County is interested in that, and we've been working together on that. We've also worked together through the pandemic with the Garfield County Health Department because the city does not have its own health department. So we were working closely with Garfield County. We didn't always agree on everything with the commissioners, and we won't always agree. But the city does its best to keep a positive relationship and keep working with the commissioners. I have respect for our Garfield County commissioners and want to keep working on them in a positive way. One thing that we're working on right now is cleanup of the homeless camps above the Walmart site south of town. That land down there has been the site of several fires over the last year. It's an environmental and a safety hazard for the city, and we are working together with the Garfield County commissioners to get that area hopefully cleaned up and have a long-term solution to keep it that way. So I'm very hopeful about that. We're very hopeful that the Garfield County commissioners will step up and match the city's funding for the South Bridge because it's so important to the residents up 4 Mile and up 3 Mile, as well as the South Glenwood Springs residents, all of which are Garfield County residents.
Very good. Thank you so much. All right, Shelley, back to you again. The risk from fire is impossible to mitigate completely in a wildland urban interface. But what are some ideas you have on how Glenwood Springs could help reduce the potential for catastrophic fires in the future?
That's a tough one. It's a challenging one because as We know the state's been in an extended and extreme drought, and Glenwood Springs is in that extreme drought area. So we are, that's something that we need to be aware of. Our fire department does do work with residents along the edges of town, and they'll go in and do fire mitigation and kind of cut the undergrowth back and try to keep those edges of town so that they're less prone to spreading of wildfire if it does come close to town. We certainly need to have a very strong and solid emergency preparedness and evacuation plans when a wildfire does erupt. But I think long-term too, for me, we need to do whatever we can to address climate change, because climate change is as the driver of this long-term drought and other trends that we're seeing. We also need to make sure that we have a very strong water system for the city so that we're able to fight fires. We have some places, we try to keep the boundary of the city quite succinct so that we have a pretty distinct boundary between where the city ends and where our wildlands start outside of the city boundaries. But some of those areas, we need to make sure that we have a strong water system. We've got the pressures and the infrastructure that we need to fight a fire in those areas. But climate change is a long-term threat to the city. It threatens our water sources up in No Name and up Grizzly Creek. As we know, the fire has threatened those watersheds. And these are long-term impacts. And that's why the city's worked to bring 100% renewable energy. We had that opportunity from our power supplier to purchase 100% wind energy for our contracts to the city. And we were able to do that and happy to do that to set an example and do our part in reducing our carbon footprint. And we're working on other ways to do that.
Very good. Thank you, Ricky. Same question to you. The risk from fire is impossible to mitigate completely in a wildland urban interface. But what are some ideas that you have on how Glenwood Springs could help reduce the potential for catastrophic fires in the future?
Well, controlled fires would be a good idea. So controlled fires would be good. Also logging would be good, to go up and cut woods that are trees that are dying. So it's not so dry up there, especially during droughts. And also be very, very strict on interstates when people are passing through, because it seems like people are always flicking out cigarettes. Make that a priority to know if somebody gets caught flicking the cigarette out, that there's a penalty for that, a big penalty. But other than that, I think that's as much knowledge as I have with wildfires.
Okay, very good. Same question, or excuse me, back to you. Different question. I'm not going to ask the same question twice. After experiencing less tax revenues due to the loss of tourism because of the pandemic and then the Grizzly Creek fire, what are your plans and strategies to help diversify the city's revenue sources?
How to pick up the economy again? It's pretty much what you're saying.
Well, it's more so about we're based in tourism, or there's a lot of revenue based on tourism.
Mm.
And how would you diversify the revenue to not be so focused on tourism?
Well,
or maybe not be as reliant on tourism.
Well, tourism is probably one of the most important parts of our economy here. But that's kind of like what we were talking about, bringing more events, getting the community more involved with event. I've seen other towns, the way they handle their events and how it brings in more people. If we did more events, say like even like Carbondale does First Friday, the town just gets really busy. Everybody comes there. not only for the locals and the place and the businesses, but because it's a gathering. I think that would be one way to bring in more or involving the community. So we're recycling the money here in town and we're not going to a different town to spend our money.
Okay, very good. Shelley, after experiencing less tax revenues due to loss of tourism because of the pandemic and then the Grizzly Creek fire, what are your plans and strategies to help diversify the city's revenue sources?
Thank you. That's a really good question. Glenwood Springs has always been a tourist destination, but as we moved here and as I've known the city, you know, working in more of the building and construction industry, it's also been, it does actually have a lot of economic diversity. And that's one of our strengths here in Glenwood Springs. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit the tourism economy and the service sector very hard. But our revenues for the city were actually, the sales tax revenues were, I believe, down just a little more than 5% for the year in 2020. And I owe that, I look at that, don't call it success. You never want to look at loss, but a lot less of a loss. We were expecting greater than a 10% loss. So to see it be much less than that, we owe that to our diversity. And Glenwood Springs, in addition to being a tourist economy, has also been the regional economic center for years in the region. So our retail stores, our big box stores, places like the Meadows and places like Roaring Fork Marketplace, you know, they serve markets all the way from Aspen to Vail to Rifle, you know, so that really gives us strength also. The city has worked on, we have accelerated our broadband rollout to have high-speed internet, fiber optic throughout the city that will serve the businesses as well as residents. So as we know, there's been a growing trend over the past few years of more people being able to work from home or work on their own. That really accelerated over this last year. And I think we'll see more and more people wanting to do that. So broadband can provide that opportunity for things like more people working from home, but also things like telehealth and other things that we can bring here. Glenwood Springs is also a regional health center. That's a lot of jobs for our community, not to mention a fantastic service for our community. And we're also the government center, which we're very proud of. So that brings a lot of jobs, and it brings kind of consistent revenue, I think, for our restaurants and things like that downtown. So I love our diversity, and I've always worked to strengthen that and really stress that we are not just a tourist town. We have a diverse economy. We need to keep it diverse, keep it strong. If we can add things like small manufacturing, more recreation, more events, which we were working on before the pandemic, and now they've slowed. But hopefully we'll get back to those. The New Year's Eve event that we had a couple of years ago was very popular. So we'll keep that going.
Very good. Thank you both. Sticking with you again, Shelley here. Glenwood Springs city staff are recommending significant water utility increases for residents to help generate funds to replace aging infrastructure. Do you support the increases as recommended currently, which average about 36.8%? Why or why not?
That's a good question again, Bryce, and thank you. I know this is going to be a tough decision for council, tough thing to work on, and I am still undecided on whether or not I can support that much of an increase at one time. At the same time, our water infrastructure is aging. It's very expensive to replace and upgrade. We've probably had lower water rates than we, than we're actually paying for themselves. Our water rates have not been high enough over the past years to keep our infrastructure up to what it should be. So now we have older infrastructure The sewer rates went up a lot when we built the new sewer plant and moved that out to West Glenwood. So a lot of what you see when you get your water and sewer bill has been that increase in the sewer rate to help cover the cost of that new plant. The water rates have been fairly low, and water is, we're lucky as Glenwood Springs to have fantastic water rights up No Name Creek and up Grizzly Creek. That's a huge asset for the city, which we want to protect. But a lot of our pipes within the city are aging. You know, we did a big project in the Cedar Crest neighborhood just this past year and replaced the water pipes up there when we did the roads. And that's the time to do it. You know, when you're doing the road, you want to do the infrastructure that's underneath it at that time. So these projects are very expensive. So we have to figure out a way to fund that. And I want to make sure we've turned every stone and kind of looked at all the options before we make a final decision on these rates. But we do have to figure out how to upgrade our infrastructure, and it's not an easy task for any city.
Very good, thank you. Ricky, I'm going to read this question again. Glenwood Springs city staff are recommending significant water utility increases for residents to help generate funds to replace an aging infrastructure. Do you support the increases as recommended currently, which average about 36.8%? Why or why not?
I agree with Shelley on that. I think we need to explore other ways so it doesn't land on the citizens of Glenwood. I think one of the things that I could bring to the table is that we need a stronger business. Our business is really based on 7th Street right now. We need to expand that. You know, we should have businesses veering all the way from 5th Street to 11th. The more businesses we have, the more revenue we're bringing. So it would help out with taxes. But yeah, I think we need to explore ways to defer that initial hurdle in order to build more of a tax base.
Okay, very good. Question number 9. So far, I think, Shelley, you've said 3 of our questions are good. The other 6, not so much. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. So every election has winners and losers. Ricky, what would you do to help the community if you do lose the election for Glenwood Springs City Council?
I hope to still be a voice. You know, I'm much more involved now. I was so disconnected from the politics and everything that was going on because I was so involved in building my business. And the saying goes, what is it? If you don't pay attention to politics, politics pay attention to you. So I'm going to be much more involved, regardless on what happens. I want to be a voice in our community.
Very good. Shelley, same question to you. Every election has winners and losers. What would you do to help the community if you lost the election for Glenwood Springs City Council?
Go on vacation. No, I'm just kidding. If I were to lose the election, you know, I would probably still stay involved in some way. I have been involved in city boards and commissions for many years. I started out on the Parks and Rec board a while ago, and we actually were able to bring Gregory Park and get Gregory Park built in West Glenwood Springs. So that was one of the first successes that I had on a city commission, and it kind of lit my fire and got me excited about, wow, that, you know, your voice in the community is important, and it can really make a difference. So if I'm not reelected, I'll probably find a commission to serve on, or some way to volunteer and help work in this community. I love this community, and things like Summer of Music, other things, there's a lot to get involved in here, and we have so many assets. So that would be where I would go with that. But I would also continue to, one of the things I've done on council is really continue to encourage new and young and diverse leaders coming up on our boards and commissions and getting involved in the city, because, you know, this is our community, and everyone's voice makes a difference. So the more diverse voices, the more voices we have on our boards and commissions, the more we can work together to build the type of city that we want. So I'd continue to do that too, and help advocate to get more diversity on our boards and in our city government.
Okay, very good. So Shelley, we're going to go to you next, but I'm jumping some questions here because I think you've answered. There was 2 other questions submitted about balancing the city budget and you know, sort of projects that you would or would not do. I think both of you have sufficiently sort of covered the financial standing of the city. So I'm going to skip some of those budget questions and go to housing. So to you, Shelley, how do you think Glenwood Springs could best address the lack of both affordable and senior housing in particular?
You know, we had a housing commission that was working, and then through the recession, we went through some years of really no construction and no housing growth at that time because the real estate market was hit so bad. So we restarted the housing commission a couple of years back now, and they are very invigorated and enthusiastic and working on ideas for housing. So we actually have quite a few diverse approaches with housing, because I think with affordable housing, there's no one solution. You know, the market drives a lot of our pricing, and it's development. The city is not in the development business, you know, so the market drives kind of what gets built out there. And lately, in the last 2 to 3 years, most of what we've been built is what the market has brought us, which is small, for the most part, very high priced apartments. So we look at that, the Housing Commission looks at that, and we look at the need, what are the needs for housing in our community based on incomes, average incomes, and the spread of incomes across our population and the type of jobs that we have. And how do we come up with housing solutions that, again, you want as diverse a housing supply as you can. You know, the question is right. We do not have enough housing options for seniors that want to downsize and you know, move into units. We don't have a lot of the type of units that they want, or you know, good options for that, for downsizing. So that's something that's definitely needed. We also need low income housing. We do have several tax finance low income housing projects throughout the city, but you know, we look at having more of those, but primarily we need workforce housing. Workforce housing that our young teachers and our young workers, young families can get into the market and maybe buy a townhome or condo or a smaller house, that they can get into the real estate market and start building that kind of middle class, you know, opportunity for them to own their own home. So we have a few options in the city. One of them is the accessory dwelling units, which we allow any house basically in the city to add an accessory dwelling unit if they want to. We're also looking at implementing an inclusionary housing regulations, which we used to have in the books, and it was taken off, but it requires developers who come into town and build big projects to dedicate some of that housing to more affordable workforce housing.
Okay, thank you so much. Ricky, same question to you. How do you think Glenwood Springs could best address the lack of both affordable and senior housing in particular?
Sounds like Shelley has that one down. It looks like she's pretty passionate on that topic, just from everything that I've heard. I know there's not a lot of room to grow here. A lot of the housing, ADUs allowance. So, Sorry, my notes are, I have to have notes for all of this. I apologize, just because I'm learning so much.
Your Vern.
Yeah, no. It looks like we need some incentives and ownerships and development. I don't know too much on this, on this because there's not a lot of places that we could grow, and I know a lot of people are against growth here, but that's just the reality of it. I really don't have an answer to that right now. I would have to look more into that on the development.
Okay. Well, why don't I ask you, I don't want to ask you both this question, maybe 30 seconds. It's interesting because Ricky, you talk about there's not a lot of room for growth just geographically. So how do you balance protecting the little space that we have left and all the other things that we use space for? So if you could do like 30 seconds on that, Ricky, and then Shelley, follow up with you.
Repeat that question real quick.
How do you balance protecting the little open space that we have left? Just geography, just space.
How do we balance that?
Yeah, with all the other needs that we have, like wildlife, water, et cetera, et cetera.
Are you talking about more like parks, open spaces here in town, right?
Parks, open spaces, but more particular to housing. Everybody wants to grow more housing and those sorts of things. How do you balance the use of space?
Well, and are you talking about like rentals, apartments, like ADUs, building building at ADUs?
Yeah, that's one option. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do we balance that? That's a good question. I'm not sure how we balance that.
Okay.
I might be able to, let me think about that for a second. You can go.
We'll go to Shelley next then. Shelley, how do you balance protecting what little open space we have left with all the rest of the resources we need, just space wise and what we're using?
It's a challenge to balance that. It's actually a little bit less of a challenge in Glenwood Springs because we are so geographically confined. You know, we don't want to see growth of housing in neighborhoods kind of up our hillsides. Everybody values that view shed and also the trails and places that we use and like to hike and ride bikes and other things. So, you know, in a city like ours, probably the best way to balance that and grow is a little more density, you know, allowing that growth to happen within the city boundaries where there's already existing infrastructure, you know, so you're not going out to a greenfield somewhere and bringing in all new electric, water, and tearing up the land and building new tracts of housing, you know. And if we have, I hear both sides. Some people say, you know, no more, we can't grow anymore. And other people, you know, want more growth and want more housing opportunities. So it is a balancing act. But my feeling is if we, you know, we can't accommodate everyone in Glenwood. We just don't have room, but we will, if we can develop more densely by allowing ADUs and maybe allowing some denser housing in areas where we do have room for growth, then we can accommodate more. And the more people who work in Glenwood Springs that can live here, you know, it's fewer times they have to get in their car or they have to travel. You know, the more we try to stop growth in Glenwood, the more it pushes people to living down valley. And that means longer commutes, you know, more traffic on the roadways. So there are a lot of impacts to that. And so you have to weigh that with allowing denser growth within the city.
Okay, great. Ricky, anything in addition?
I guess how do you balance our community like that? We don't. I rather not allow people to continue to grow here. I want to protect our community from, yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys pretty much nailed that. And Shelley, I think it's so true. I hear every time there's a new subdivision, somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, I can not gonna be able to see that space anymore that I used to." It's so wonderful that we're building up and not building out. So it's a very relevant and tough conversation for us today. So I think we've answered pretty much all the questions that we had. And sort of prepared. And so for now, I think what we'll do is, Ricky, you're going to start off here, but we're going to give you each 2 minutes to close, sort of give your closing statements, and then I'll wrap up right after that. So Ricky, 2 minutes.
All right. So thank you. Thank you, Shelley. I know I'm not very polished with this. I'm not used to this, but there's, I think, a lot I can contribute to this town for me running for city council. So why I'm the right candidate for council. I work hard for what is important to me, and this town is extremely important to me. It's my home. I love it for so many reasons: the beautiful outdoors and our amazing community. I am a natural born leader, and I want to lead our town into a healthier, stronger, and more unified future. The most important lesson COVID has taught me is that it's time for change. I am the change. Thank you all. Thank you, Shelley. And please vote for me for Glenwood Springs City Council.
Thank you, Ricky. Shelley, you got 2 minutes.
Okay. And again, thank you everyone for being here tonight, and thank you all for having us. And thanks, Ricky, for stepping up to run for council. It is a big job, and but having a contested race, it's allowed us to have this good community conversation, and I think that's always important. So it's good to have a contested race on these council seats. I think it's important. So my vision for Glenwood Springs is that we're a vibrant community that celebrates its people and its natural environment. We have an active lifestyle, but we also have a great history and a very diverse culture here. So I think we achieve this by having solid infrastructure and a strong and diverse economy, and by safeguarding our neighborhoods and our environment from the impacts of growth. And I work hard to help realize that vision. In looking to the future, I think there are many residents in town that are concerned about the impacts of growth, things like traffic and affordability. And they're also concerned about emergency preparedness for wildfires and droughts, and about protecting the character of our kind of close-knit small city. So if I'm re-elected, my top priorities are to a strong modern infrastructure. We need to get our roads built up, and we've made some progress in the last few years, but we have a ways to go. And also the water and sewer, and that broadband build out is big. Improved transportation connections like the South Bridge, and good transit for people, and also looking to the new technologies that are coming in. Emergency planning, affordable and diverse housing, and the solutions to homelessness, and then the support of the youth in our community. So we've seen a lot of challenges the last year, but Glenwood Springs has a way of coming together as a community to recover and to rebuild. It takes a lot of commitment, cooperation, and hard work. So I look forward to the opportunity to serve 4 more years on City Council. And to learn more, please visit electshelleykalp.com, and please vote for Shelley Kalp for City Council at large. Thank you.
Shelley, I think whoever wins takes the other to lunch.
I would love that.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Thanks, Ricky. Yeah, appreciate that. Yep.
You heard it here first. All right. So, hey, thank you guys so much. Not only thanks for this evening, but thank you for serving. Thanks for showing your interest. And newspapers will often opine how important it is to get people involved in the solution. And I think I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that we have a contested race. The conversation is good for sure. So this event has been brought to you courtesy of Glenwood Springs Chamber Resort Association. Glenwood Springs Post-Independent, and KMTS. We've also recorded this on to be displayed later in English and in Spanish. The links will be on all three of our websites, postindependent.com, kmts.com, and glenwoodchamber.com. This is a mail ballot election. Please be sure to return your ballots by Election Day on Tuesday, April 6th. Okay, so now a little bit of advertisement here. I just want to promote the community is also invited to a virtual event on Wednesday afternoon, March 17th, St. Patty's Day, 2:30 to 4:30. It's called Onward 2021, focusing on the future of our local and state economy. This event will feature an address by Governor Polis, economic outlook by Richard Wilbekind, Leeds School of Business, CU Boulder, and a local panel of business people. It is free and open to the public. For more information, you can visit glenwoodchamber.com. And please, if you're interested in tonight, that'll also be a great time for you as well. So again, thank you all, 4 of you. I appreciate your time and interest in serving, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Ricky, Shelley, Ingrid.
Thanks all.